to be going over pretty much the reverse of everything that we've gone through so far. So, remember what I was telling you about reversing the flow, okay? Sometimes reversing the flow is a way to bring your opponent down harder than what he expected. Because sometimes when you're coming in for a certain throwing technique, there'll be a little bit of rigidity. They'll try to resist. In which case, then you just simply go with the direction in which they're resisting. For example, when they're throwing that punch, and I come here, and I come in for the Soto Makakomi, right? Right? And I'm getting them all twisted up, and they're real tight. Okay? Now, if they're using their left hand, okay? So, I'm taking the place of the dummy now. My opponent has me in the position of that Soto Makakomi, right? And I'm going to try to push on the opposite shoulder, on the left shoulder, keeping them from twisting me fully this way, okay? To keep them from tightening against my arm. So I'm going to push on the left side shoulder to try to stop that, okay? So when I wrap around, they're going to try to push on my left shoulder that way to keep me from turning this way, okay? So basically they're just trying to block my progress. Alright, so what am I going to do there, okay? Because as long as they're pushing on my left shoulder, trying to push me that way, as long as they're strong enough to do that, and they have enough time to sink their body weight into it, it's going to be very difficult for me to overcome those. Okay? Furthermore, to the point, when we go into counter throws, if they decide to sit down with that, then they can very easily throw me. Okay? So how you deal with that? Well, that resistance that they have pushing on my shoulder, okay, I'm trying to turn this way. They're trying to push me that way. Okay? All I have to do is just go with it. Watch again. They throw the punch, I'm blocking, I'm coming in. I'm starting to throw the Soto Makakomi. They're pushing on the back of my left shoulder, or in other words, my left shoulder blade. Their arm is here. My opponent is wrapped all around my arm. I'm trying to push him away to try to pull my arm back out. Okay? If he doesn't have my arm, he can't throw me, right? That's why you have to be so tight with the Soto Makakomi. So, what happens, I'm trying to go this way. He's trying to push me this way. Instead of hitting head to head and letting the forces collide and fight each other, I say fine. I'm going to let that tension build just a little bit. Just to the point to where I can feel where if I reverse my direction, there'll be no way for him to stop it. And then all I do is, since I already have this arm locked up, I'm just going to, instead of turn this way, I'm going to step forward with my left foot, come back up, and drop him up. I'm going to essentially use his force against him and allow him to throw himself. So let's watch how this would work. My opponent throws the punch, I block, I come in for the Soto Makakomi, he resists, and I just throw him down. Okay. Now, once he's on the ground, of course, I can do any number of stomping or smashing or whatever. But that's not the point. The point is when he throws that punch, I'm blocking, coming in for the Somakomi. He starts resisting. I just reverse, and I drop. That's simple. Next technique. Okay, so in this one, remember how we were going over the punch from the left hand side. I'm going to use left hand side to the heel hand. Right? Now, when he throws that punch, one of the keys to this technique is that I'm going to be pulling. Right? Because I'm pulling his arm, what's his natural reaction? His natural reaction is going to be this. He's going to want to pull his arm back. Okay? Because he doesn't want this arm to be extended. Especially if he knows what's coming. If he knows what's coming, he really doesn't want his arm extended. Okay? So as he's pulling it back, that's fine. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over the top with my right hand. Now what I'm doing is I'm striking the inside of that elbow joint. Okay? So by me striking the inside of that elbow joint, it's going to cause it to collapse. That's what I want it to do. Because when it's collapsing and he's pulling, he's going with this pulling motion back. So I'm going to collapse that arm. See what's happening? For those of you that haven't gone on to it yet. When that punch comes, I'm blocking. I'm pulling. He's trying to pull the arm back. I'm hitting the inside of the elbow joint here. I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to throw him from there. Watch again, Claude. Watch again carefully. You have to think of everything from a physics standpoint, but you also have to think of it kind of as a microphysics. Everything is a micro bit, and all these little bits create to a large bit. This is the motion he's throwing the punch. My motion is to follow along with it. Okay? That's why I'm able to set him up for the damaging punch or the heel hand technique. He feels me start to pull, so he pulls back. Instead of fighting that, I'll go with it. I'm striking to the inside of the elbow joint. Just enough to get him to bend his arm. Now that I've got him bend his arm, I'm just going to continue in a circular fashion, wrapping him up and throwing him at the same time. This is the same type of motion at play as Iri Minagi, which is a common Aikido technique. See, this is all the idea of your opponent is trying to exact a force upon you by punching. I'm redirecting the force and trying to use that force against it. He notices this because this is a big movement. So he tries to pull back. When he does, I make a small movement, striking the inside of the elbow. And then I just go with it. And I drop him down. Same technique can be used. Similarly, when that punch comes, blocking it, pulling, he's pulling backwards, And instead of striking the inside of the elbow joint, I can just strike the head and then drop him from there. Similar technique. Okay? It's all about reversing the flow, having the flow, and reversing the flow. Now, as an added bonus for you guys, let's say that I'm bringing the feet out a little bit so that you'll understand. And so that my leg can do what it needs to do. The top of these boots, very common, you know, it's right at the knee, right? So he throws that punch. When he throws that punch, I'm stepping behind. Now, just as I'm starting to bring my hand up for the elbow strike, I'm feeling that arm start to pull back. Okay. Now I'm bringing this hand over. I can either strike the elbow here, or I can strike to the head. It doesn't matter, whichever one. Because when I do this, as I rotate backwards, I'm going to sweep. Not necessarily sweep with the leg, but more put my leg in the way so that he cannot step backwards. And because I've entangled his legs, just by putting my leg in front of his, or just behind, doesn't matter. Or even by stepping behind as I'm getting ready to rotate this way. That turns it from, oh, he hit the ground, to, holy crap. It's the difference when we're talking a break fall. Just that subtle foot placement is the difference between the whole back hitting and they can roll out of it, to the upper back hitting and the legs going behind the head. Okay? That's the difference in power we're talking about. That's the one of just going with it, he's just going to go down. The second one is going to knock the wind out of him for sure. You throw somebody like that, now you've got added time. And that's what throwing is all about. Throwing is all about taking your opponent onto the ground to give you time. If you have time, you have options. It's about taking you from a bad position into a good position. Okay? So, just as a close-up to the last two techniques, we're going to do it this way. Okay? So, punch comes, boom. Okay? I'm starting to feel that come back. I'm reaching my hand over, hitting the elbow joint, and rotating in this way. Again, punch comes, blocking it, grabbing it. I start to feel that arm come back. I flow with it. I bring my hand up. Know how I'm similar to the reverse Sotomayor Komi here, but instead I just rotate it back around. And while I'm doing, I'm hanging him pretty good with this back of the, right at the edge of my forearm here. I could hit with the hammer fist. I could hit with the back of the wrist. Either way, it doesn't matter, because I'm hitting him with bone, and it's going to hurt like hell. 1, 2. Okay. So, anyway, think about that. That might help you. Whenever you're trying to learn throws like this, it's always best to think of, okay, I do this. If I were my opponent, what would I do to try to defend against that? And then, when you try that, then you think of, huh, what would I do to turn that defense into actually working for me? We'll get into this a little bit as we go on and we get into counters, but use these simple principles. Anyway, thank you.
I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your time. Defend your homes wisely.